the more I think about this, the harder it kind of gets. So imagine you've created your new pedal. You've got your marketing ready. You've got your Pete Thorne, you've got your Leon Todd, you've got your RJ ready to do demos. Maybe even you get Sean Tubbs involved, bring in the big dogs. And then you don't know, is this pedal going to sell 3 units, or are there going to be 10,000 people clamoring to buy this unit? So this is, I guess, the trickiest part of, to my mind, releasing a new pedal. I'm thinking specifically in my mind about this MXR Rockman, which is like, I'm ready to buy this pedal, but I can't find one to buy anywhere. And this is a tricky thing. Like, if you made 10,000 units of this thing, you're going to have, I don't know, possibly the MXR Rockman might have even sold all of those. But equally, another pedal release that doesn't do as well as that, you're going to have, I don't know, 4,000 sat on shelves all around the UK. What happens then? This must be, I guess, the trickiest part of selling a new pedal. But I think it's something that if you don't quite get it right, then you basically lose out on a bunch of impulse purchases, and the way that the kind of gas thing works is tricky.
This channel is supported by Truefire. Truefire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses.
I'm someone who watches and sees releases coming up, and sometimes if I'm not involved in the release of a pedal or, a piece of gear, I get very much, I think, what must be a similar reaction to many, many other people, which is like, okay, you've sold the pedal, I want to go and buy it. Now, this is the tricky part, I think, of selling pedals in the first place, right? Demand generation. There used to be a Facebook user called DemGen, something like that. Like, this is a thing within companies, right? And that is kind of basically the whole point of marketing, right? Is to create this want for a product. There's been a few releases recently that I wanted to kind of talk about, because I'm basically just being a frustrated customer, and I think this is something that pedal companies and gear companies in general should avoid at pretty much all costs, I think, in 2025 particularly. Why is 2025 different to any other year? I think because disposable income, all that sort of stuff is, being pressured. Is there any piece of gear out there that you can't do what you need to do until you get that thing? The answer is probably no. So we're kind of working in an industry where a lot of this stuff is like purchases on impulse, or because we want to try something, gear acquisition syndrome and all that sort of stuff, and very rarely like a piece of gear that we need to get, otherwise we can't do our gigs. Even a hobby guitarist, like I was chatting to Tony at Birmingham Guitar Show the other day, and he was kind of talking about, like, he doesn't even really like playing it live, but like loves playing at home, which I guess for me it's totally, like, I totally get that. Like, I love playing at home, love practicing, probably more than playing live, to be honest. That's probably another topic. But there's been a couple of things that have happened. Don't know exactly what has happened in some of these cases, or whether this is like planned, or things just go off the rails. But what I would say is that I think you can probably shift things in a way which is less detrimental. So, for example, the MXR Rockman was announced at NAMM, and if you check like the views from Pete Thorne, Leon Todd, and RJ, there's at least 400, 500,000 views just on those videos alone. Like the MXR Rockman has kind of hit hard. So I think for me personally, I would have bought that pedal 10 times over in the last month if it was available. I can't find it in stock anywhere. It was never really the case that I saw any come into stock. I think there's maybe like been a few units made, or like a small amount of units made, and obviously you've got to distribute those across the world. And then, so I guess probably if you're watching this, you might be like me in that it's a pedal that you were interested in, but you've not been able to get one anywhere. I think also right now I'm thinking of a couple of other things. So Behringer, for example, they've announced things like the Klon Centaur. They've announced things like there was that Univibe, and they've announced a few other things. These are like products that are not coming out for 6 months, 9 months, like a long time. In that case, that probably looks like it's less like something that's gone like a delay in production, and more just like they're just floating an idea out there and maybe seeing if they get sued. I don't know, but in that case, it seems like that's a strategy. But I'll explain in a second why I think it's not the best one. And then, for instance, the Meris Enzo X has just come out. Now, I've done stuff with Meris before. I really love their pedals and their recent stuff particularly. And I think they're doing some really cool things. And the Meris Enzo X actually, to me, seems like the most fully featured polysynth that you don't have to use a hex pickup for or anything like that. I think that came out like 2 weeks ago, but it's pre-orders, and you're going to be expected to wait, I guess, a while. Like, thing is, right, that's a £700 piece of gear, I think. And this is kind of the problem with this, is that I think that if you wait 2, 3, 4 weeks after that launch thing, that you'll find the gas seems to just kind of taper off. And this is the thing that is, I think, going to hurt gear companies when pockets are squeezed, because it's like, well, I've done without that piece of gear for a month, for example, now with the MXR Rockman, and I've chatted to people about this, and they're like, well, couldn't you just do it on an HX Stomp anyway? It's like, yeah, probably. And it's kind of like a thing where I have, as soon as that video comes out with Pete Thorne, Leon, and RJ, I'm like, right, well, that's an interesting piece of gear. People are interested in it. You've got that bubble of hype. Now what? I want to buy one. Okay, I can't find one anywhere. Likewise, the Meris Enzo X actually looks like a game-changing pedal in a lot of ways. It's like, I want to buy one and demo one. Can't find one anywhere. 4 weeks down the line, 6 weeks down the line, when I'm looking down the barrel of a Meris Enzo X and I'm thinking, right, well, that's £700. Has the gas dissipated enough that I'm going to go, actually, do you know what, I'll just skip this one. This is the thing, I think. So I did email a couple of people about this. So I've got some industry insiders. So this is a fairly large company that responded. I would bet most of my money that whatever company it is was just trying to catch the hype of a NAMM release, even though they were not ready. Even if a company is not exhibiting at NAMM, it is a big deal to launch a product in January, since all customers have been trained to watch out for what is new. The pedal industry is so big on ditching what is working to go for the new thing, and if you don't have anything to announce, it can really hurt. So that's interesting. Having marketing units ready for a launch and having stock units ready are so different, since most builders hand populate PCBAs for a launch and then have the stock PCBAs built at a factory. So these are like the PCB assemblies, I think is what that stands for. The delay on the release could be anything from a single part that is out of stock, boards held up at customs, hardware issue with the pedal that was found too late, or many more issues. If it was a customs issue or a part that is out of stock, that is an easy thing to let people know about. But if it is a hardware or software issue, that is hard to say something about, because that just means the product was not ready for launch. In the past, we have had correct units that were hand-built for marketing units, and then when we got our production units in, they were wrong. So that could be what is going on. And so in this case, and I've had, I think, emails specifically from that company where they said, look, you're not ready yet, we're going to delay the launch. And I think this is the thing that you should do, right? Yes, people are looking for new gear at NAMM, But that's the thing, they're looking for new gear all year round. And I think that's the thing that we've kind of figured out now. That I would say hold back the marketing until there's significant amount of these products ready to be sold, basically. I think that probably sounds fairly simple, and there's probably way more complicated behind the scenes. It's just that as a customer here, I'm looking at these products and product launches, and I'm thinking, right, I'm interested in this. You've got my attention, you've got my potential money, but I'm not going to sit on a wait list for 4 to 6 to 8 weeks or some amount of time. You know, I've actually ordered a pedal from France only to find that they didn't have one in stock, and so I'm just getting on a French waiting list, which is the worst type of waiting list. And so in theory, what I would say is you email your influencer marketing people and just say, look, things are not ready yet. We're going to push our launch to, I don't know, February, March. Interest in an MXR Rockman unit is still going to be big. You're just going to have delayed that. Whereas I think what's going to happen now is that you're going to have, 500,000 views, a lot of hype generated, but that kind of dissipates quite quickly if people are not making videos on them anymore. You see, like, other reviews start to roll in that might be negative on Sweetwater and stuff like that, I found. And then it's kind of just like, well, whoever has actually got their launch ready to go, in March there'll be another product, in April there'll be another product. There's products coming all through the year. There's only so much disposable income that guitarists have, especially in 2025. We'll use our impulse money, disposable money, to buy something else probably. So I would suggest to any pedal company watching this that just ask Pete, ask Leon, ask me, ask whoever's doing these videos, just to wait until you actually got the units like firmly ready. Otherwise, I think that there's going to be a huge chunk of these, if they're made in, to sufficient scale, sat like on a shelf probably, because I think that's the way it works. The interest is most at launch, and people are ready to buy at launch. Like, if it could be there the next day, you'd have sold a lot of MXR Rockmans. I hope that's okay to talk about. It's just one of those things that I noticed, and it's been a few launches that have gone by that I thought I'd really like to demo one of them, and there's just no product available, so it's kind of like, oh, so then I can't even send my money. Yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Anything can happen, but I just think just delay the release. It doesn't need to be released in January. If anything, I think that MXR Rockman thing is like a totally evergreen release, and people are ready to buy it. Just make sure it's on the shelves, and probably be alright. Probably. Also, I totally get that, like, this sounds way simpler than it is. The logistics of actually getting thousands of pedals into shops before release is absolutely not simple. Likewise, a marketing effort takes a lot of money. You spend a lot of money getting these demos, these adverts, the marketing done. I think you just have to make sure it's lined up. Otherwise, like, it's just like a disconnected marketing effort that ends up in some ways, I think, frustrating customers, but at the very least doesn't optimize the amount of sales that you're going to make, is kind of my thought on it. For instance, right now I'm also interested in like the Marshall new like Marshall in a box pedals that were announced at NAMM. Very low stock on those, and I get that maybe if demand totally outstrips what you expected, where you've made like thousands and thousands of these, it's just that they've been bought up really quickly. But I don't think that's always the case. I think sometimes what's happening is these things marketing's been released, like I've not really seen these MXR Rockmans come into stock at all anywhere yet. So it's not to bag on anyone in particular. It's just like, if you're wanting to sell pedals, you've created the demand, you've done most of the job there, just sync those things up and everyone wins, probably.